Oh,
Oh
that's
my
cool. That's really funny.
god! It's hilarious.
So that's the start. So
Oh,
now we can say whatever. Um, maybe we should start with like an intro of what we're trying to do. So this is for everyone. Oh wow, this is really weird,
this is
isn't it?
weird.
Yeah. So if this ever goes to anyone, my name is Emery. Hello. This is my co-host.
Yellow.
You want
Yeah,
to
Corollas. Yeah,
There you go.
there we go. Try it, man.
So, and we present to you Fallacious Philosophy.
Indeed,
So,
indeed.
we are two like very beginner. We're not even philosophers yet. We're like some idiots on the internet thinking about it.
Indeed,
So,
indeed.
so this is going to be like our random talks about random philosophy for random lengths and about random things. It's not going to be cohesive. It's not going to make any sense, but hopefully we can get you to think and it'll be entertaining.
Man, our brains are gonna break. Oh
Yes.
Lord.
It's gonna be a wild ride.
um, how do we start off? Or like, what do you? Are we just gonna go
Um,
off of your
I
journal?
don't know, because
What?
we've sort of thrown ourselves into the deep end with zero preparation and zero plan. So
Oh yeah,
maybe
100%.
maybe that's not like a horrible idea. We can sort of explain a little bit about the reading that we were doing in class and then maybe try and relate our own stuff to it. So I don't know how well I'm going to be able to explain this, but today we were talking about Plato, and Plato has a couple of things that he argues for. Those being the idea of forms, innate ideas, and immortal souls. That's that's sort of the main three that we need to be able to talk about what we want to talk about. So starting with innate ideas, and let's start with innate ideas. Basically, Plato is a philosopher who belongs to the school of thought that just wants to follow reason.
Rationale. Well, yeah, yeah. Reason.
Yeah,
My bad. My bad. My bad.
reason. What is that called?
Rationalism. I think.
Rational. Let's
Yes.
let's go with it. It's rationalism. So belongs to the school of thought rationalism. So, what they believe is that we already know everything that we know through innate ideas. And when we are learning something, we are only calling recollection to something that we already knew.
Which is trippy because God, I mean that would kind of make sense for things because the whole baby example where how does the baby know you're pointing at something and calling said thing the object or whatever? I don't know. It's
Yeah,
tricky.
so so exactly what Curls is talking about, we had an example that was basically like when you're teaching a baby something, you point at it and then say what it is. So say for example, a cup. You hold a cup in your hand, you point at it and you say cup. And somehow, usually the baby understands what you're pointing at. But how do they know that? You never taught them what pointing was.
Indeed.
So
In that like maybe you're not talking about the like object, you're talking about like the color of the cup, I guess, or like that kind of thing.
yeah, how do they know that you're talking about the physical object of the cup, not the color of it or something on the other side of the room? Those types of things. So that's the general gist of innate ideas. And this is where we can go into forms. So forms are basically saying that that's what they're called. But in simple, it's two things have a similarity. And that similarity is an extra thing that we call a form, which is not a physical object, but a representation of all the objects. In class, we were talking about dogs.
And
So
the most perfect dog, which might not make well, this is where we started our whole
Yeah,
dilemma and
this is
paradox
where
with, like,
it all started.
oh
So
god.
basically, there are types of things. For example, chairs, mammals, animals, balls, etc. Those are all types of things. And each one of these has a form that perfectly describes all the things within the type.
Like a
Now,
perfect iPhone or a perfect phone in
so it's
general.
like, yeah, like all smartphones. There's a form per se that's what they're called. So I guess yeah. But there's a form that is able to describe all the similarities and all the characteristics of a smartphone. So the example we were given in class is if you ask someone to give a definition of a dog, it will be wrong. So in your head right now, I just want you to think of a definition of a dog that you think works. So
Probably like a four-legged fluffy dog, I'm guessing. I don't know.
yeah,
That's the example we ended up getting in class, so that's just not something too specific, I guess.
yeah. So one of our friends said, well, furry and four-legged. So or four-legged. I don't know. I like saying legged. I don't know why. It's just more fun. It's a little adds a little spice. So let's see, where am I? Here it is. So furry and four legs. So unfortunately for our friend, it was a pretty horrendous definition of a dog.
Pretty
Um,
funny of, Mr. Christian, right? Yeah. And to
something like
making fun
that.
of him. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a good laugh at that because
Oh, the
one,
three-leggedness.
yeah, it is entirely it isn't so so first it's too specific, right? A dog doesn't have to have four legs, and a dog doesn't have to be furry. So there could be a three-legged dog with no hair, but that
Pause. Oh, wait, no.
although it would be ugly, it is still
Still
a
technically
dog.
a dog. Indeed, indeed. Oh
And
god.
then to go on, something can be furry and have four legs, like a tiger. But a tiger's not a dog.
Indeed, and we can tell the difference pretty, like, yeah, it's pretty
Yeah,
easy to
you can
tell the
look at a
difference there.
tiger and look at a dog and be like, "Hey, that's not a dog." I mean,
The
if
one
you say
kills
that's
me.
a dog, it's kind of an issue.
That'd be terrifying, bro. Jesus.
No, people
Um,
keep tigers as pets.
true, but,
There was a
like,
whole show on that called Tiger King. That was
no.
like a cultural phenomena.
But, like, imagine, like, accidentally, like, having a tiger instead of, like, a normal dog. Like, maybe when they're, like, small,
Oh,
you can't
like
tell the difference.
you think the tiger is a dog,
Yeah, somehow.
and then it grows up to be a tiger,
Yo, it's like, wait a
and
minute, those teeth are extra big for some reason. Yo, why does he keep snacking on my arm, bro?
the dogs I get from Craigslist.
Where'd you get this? I don't know. I was like, oh, okay.
Some random dude on, like, the corner of 7th and 8th Street. I don't know what
Jesus.
you want from me. It was a 7-Eleven, it was dark out, I couldn't really see that well, and once I got it home, I got on Craigslist, the account was gone, so I don't know what to tell you.
Oh God. Well, where the heck would the person you bought it from even get? You know what? Never mind. Never mind. Never mind. Now we're getting too depth in the wrong things. But yeah,
It's okay, they
I
could
see.
be like a wizard. Um,
Oh,
yeah.
that makes sense. That makes sense.
So, as we've said, you obviously can't give a definition of a dog that works. So how do we know whether or not something is a dog? And this is again the idea of innate ideas from Plato, or the argument for innate ideas, that we can tell whether something is a dog or a tiger. We can differentiate between the two without really knowing what differentiates them in our minds.
Which is where Emery's
Well, not
whole
we're not my thing. This is like
no,
my
no, no,
thing
like a
comes
general
later.
idea or the concept. It doesn't have.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
but
Continue. No, no, no.
this is sort of more of the idea of forms and then immortal souls,
Okay, okay.
which is what we're sort of going to get into. So Plato also has an idea about immortal souls. So our souls exist, beforehand, and they learn about these forms and they have all this knowledge of everything. And then we're stuffed into a little flesh baby and um then we come out screaming and crying and we don't know what's going on and we don't have access to all the forms like we used to. So now this is where the whole thing of how can we know all things without learning anything? Well, that's because through this logic, learning is just recollection of things you knew
Which is not really learning.
beforehand.
Yeah,
Right, which isn't really learning, it's remembering.
indeed.
So Plato's argument isn't that we don't is that we don't learn things, we remember them. And that we've always known about these things, which he calls innate ideas.
Which is trippy, but yeah.
Yeah, and it's super weird.
In class, my brain was like folding in on itself because like he like
It got its first wrinkle.
in hey man, don't I'm smooth brain, okay? I got like one like solid wrinkle down the middle and just like to split it in between. Oh lord. Yeah.
Just one.
Yeah. Listen, he didn't like really bring out like conflicts in like his theory or not theory, like I guess it's a theory or like idea. So like I was just sitting there like baffled, like what happened if it's true? 'Cause I can't like yeah, you know
Yeah,
what I mean.
he sort of went through and presented it as something that's true until we reached a certain point, which was later we were talking about
The third man argument, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
the third man argument, which is brought up by Plato in a later dialogue, which is one of the only ones where Socrates actually loses, which I thought was a little interesting tidbit that
Took
he
an
was
L.
talking about. But in simple, the third man argument is there we have two men that they were stick figures poorly drawn on the board, but we can
Yeah,
count them as men.
one of the arms was a Nike logo. I don't
Yeah,
know if you saw that.
one of them was the three-legged dog from earlier. So so
How about that, dude? The more he drew it, the worse it got.
so we have so we have two men, and there's a form that describes the similarity between the two, and that's a third man. But now we need another form because the third man and both of the first two men are similar. So then because of that, we need another man that's relating the form to the first one. And then, well, because of that, now the fourth one and the first one have similarities. So now you need a fifth one. Now the
It goes
fifth
on
one, the
forever
first
and
one.
ever.
And it keeps going on and it keeps going on. So we were all in there trying to figure out how to combat this. Like how can we make this work? And I thought of the idea that maybe we can describe forms in a way that then gets rid of this. Add some rules to forms more than just through the similarities between two things. So this is where I came up with the idea that where is it here? I have it here. I mean, I know it, but I want to read it. Um, so the way we can solve this, in my thought, this is me just writing, sort of ranting off, is to describe the forms as a list of possible characteristics that is unknowingly long instead of perfect depictions. They are perfect lists of possibilities.
And then from there, later on, we end up like trying to figure out the lists and things and like
Yeah,
trying to perfect the list. Not perfect it, but get it
and
to
it
be
was like
valid. Valid.
I brought this up to our professor, and he sort of brought up some counter arguments. I tried to answer them the best I could on the spot, but it was sort of like, yeah, I think I can deal with this argument, but like not right now because I haven't had any time to think about it. So he told me to work on it and sort of come back to him with what I found. So that's what we did. We
Indeed, indeed. That whole hour in the counseling office, and yeah, okay.
Yeah, we have a free hour, so we got up to a lot of weird shit, and this is one of the arguments or not arguments, we were just talking about this idea. So I'll go into a little bit more depth here. So obviously these forms cannot be physical, so the idea of them being lists is only an analogy of how they work. We're not talking about like literally a piece of paper that you're writing characteristics down and saying this is the form of dog. We're not doing that. That doesn't make sense.
That would be giving a description, which you literally can't. So yeah.
Yeah, it's sort of it's that goes back to the idea of you can't give the definition of a dog. Like
But
you can't think of the definition of a dog because you're describing
yeah,
the form, and you can't describe the form because it doesn't exist except inside of your mind.
and then the whole cycle continues forever, and then your brain can't think anymore. They don't
Yeah.
think. Um,
So, for example, we'll use dogs and cats because they're very simple and they provide a good analogy as well. The form of dog will consist of a list of possible characteristics a dog can have. The form cat will consist of a list of possibilities that a cat can have. So, based on these lists of possible characteristics, we can describe all dogs and all cats. To go along with this, there shouldn't be a need for another relating form since both of the dogs have all the characteristics of theirs on the list. So, my idea there was sort of okay, say we have two dogs and we're describing the
okay.
similarities between them.
Yeah.
If we have a list that has the similarities of both dogs on it, then it's already related to both of them, not just the similarities between them. And because
How
of that, we wouldn't need the fourth man to correlate the third one to the first one.
you
That
broke
that
my
w
brain, but I okay, okay.
that's the general premise.
Okay, okay.
So, using this logic, one might argue that many characteristics are shared by both cats and dogs. So, someone could argue that a dog is a cat because there are so many characteristics on the cat list. And since we know that dogs aren't cats, the description of forms doesn't work. Which, that makes sense. Like when you think about it, you're like, oh well, if this list says that a characteristic of a dog is it's black, and then this dog is black, you'd be like,
Well, you
oh
just
well,
said the same exact thing.
I see that on the cat list as well. This must be a cat.
Dun-dun-dun.
And that goes
Well,
back to your whole tiger thing. Like
yeah.
you don't want to be the person that does that.
Buys their buys a quote unquote cat at 7-Eleven in the middle of the
Right.
night.
Yeah. Yeah, it was about 1 AM.
Okay. Dang it. Why the heck are you buying cats at 1 a.m.? I feel like that's sketchy enough.
It it was really sketchy, but it was so cheap.
How much? Did you pay like 20 cents? 20 cents? 20 cents, close enough.
No, no, you wouldn't believe it.
Three?
It was like $1.97. I don't know why it was so
Why
specific.
the?
I after I paid for it, I saw the dude walk into the 7-Eleven.
Yo, I swear to God.
So, I don't know what he did with my money,
Yeah.
but I'm afraid for my life.
Jesus. You think he bought like hot Cheetos or something? Oh man.
No, it's gotta be worse than hot Cheetos.
Okay, okay.
If you saw the dude, you would know that it wasn't just hot Cheetos.
I want to see this guy. Actually,
Me
maybe I
too.
don't want to see this guy. Wait, what do you mean you want to see? Okay, never mind. I give
I
up.
mean, me too, because I'm sort of forgetting what he looks like now, and I think it'd be a good refresher.
Ah, okay, okay. That makes sense. That makes sense.
So
What?
in
Jesus.
response to that, dogs could be considered cats because they have, similar things on the lists. Um, m- a dog will have more characteristics in common with the dog form or the dog list than the cat form or the cat list. So therefore, it is a dog.
There has to be something, right?
Right.
Mostly,
Like
right?
there
At least
has
that's
to be
what we were
some
talking about.
characteristic that a dog has that a cat doesn't have.
Like maybe
Because
we don't have a word for it yet, but like there
right.
has to be.
Or maybe we can't really think about it, but that we know that exists because we can tell the difference between dogs and cats. Like, something
Indeed.
about them, we can tell the difference.
You know,
So,
what this kinda what happened if you're like, you know, the whole innate thoughts? Is it innate
innate
thoughts?
ideas, yeah.
Innate ideas, there you go. What happened with colors and stuff, right? Like, what happened if you taught somebody red, right? Or, well, you could point at it, say it's red.
Right.
But, like, what happened if you did that, but with a cat and a dog, and you, like, switched it? Wouldn't they
Well, so here's the cool thing about that. Well, here's what I think. I mean, not what I think. Here's the cool thing about that. Um, when you say this is a cat and this is a dog, and you switch them and teach them to a baby, they still have the same form. The form is just named differently. So, that's sort of
Oh, it's like the whole idea that, like, if blue was to never exist or something, or, like, if like, the whole, Thanos or whatever,
well,
like, wiping out blue,
right.
yet there'd still be blue, but under a
If
different name and
if
stuff.
blue, like, if we got rid of all the blue on the earth, blue as a form would still exist.
Indeed. Okay, okay. That makes sense.
So, it's sorta similar to that, but it's also like it's just renaming it. Sort of like how, you know, perro in Spanish, I can't roll my R's, don't laugh at me, but perro in
Happy I
Spanish
passed.
is dog in English, and those 2 describe the same thing, but they are inherently different words. They have the same meaning. So if you teach a baby that cat really means what is dog to us, then that baby will just have a different name for what we call dog, but it'll still be the same thing.
You know, he's still talking about the same form. Form?
E
Yeah,
exactly.
or same
Yeah, it'll
idea.
still be talking about the same form.
Okay, okay. That makes sense.
So, how these sort of lists would work, at least, how I've been trying to understand how they would work, is that they would be really long and they would include all the possibilities for, say, a dog and all the possibilities for a cat. And we know the difference because one, we look at something, we say, okay, well, that has more in common with this dog list than with this cat list. So it must be a dog.
Indeed. But the problem with that is like, well, the problem that you ended up encountering was, are you giving a definition or a description of it because of this list?
Right. Yeah, that was one of the first questions I was actually asked, and it was like, aren't you just giving a definition at that point? And
Because it might be vague sounding, but like at, it's still somewhat a description or like a
right.
definition.
Now, my what I've come up with against that is that I'm not providing a definition, I'm providing a complete list of possibilities.
Indeed.
So, we know by being able to identify something as a dog, we know that there's a certain list of things that we look for, a certain set of characteristics that we look for to identify it as a dog. And so
And
instead of just thinking about that as like a perfect picture of a dog in our mind that we reference and see how similar it is, I'm thinking, well, we have just a whole set of characteristics for everything. And because of that, we can say, hey, this has way more characteristics for cat than for dog, or vice versa. So I know it has to be that.
indeed. And it's finding that or it's at least finding the things that are different that is difficult, or there might not be a thing. Well, there has to be a thing. Oh, okay, this is where my brain starts hurting again. Oh god.
Yeah, yeah. So we were talking earlier. We were saying, well, think about this. A dog 1,000 years ago looks totally different from a dog today. Yet they're still both dogs. So how can how can those 2 things share the same form?
Or is the form changing? But like
Is
we
that
don't
yeah,
know
and
if
then I
the
was like,
form
well,
can.
couldn't the form be like a finite number of terms? But always changing, but then so if it is that way, then say someone was born 1,000 years ago and for some reason they live till today.
Mhm,
If the idea of forms were changing, then they would no longer call it a dog, but we know it's a dog. So we know that the form can't change, right?
mhm. And because then the whole innate ideas thing would not be
Yeah, then that falls
possible.
apart because then it's like
Because
you're getting the newest software update when you're shoved into a little fleshy body instead
yeah.
of something that has always existed.
It's like a
You're
Minecraft snapshot or a Minecraft, update thing.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
So that really doesn't make sense. So couldn't the list just be, like, a list of finite idea like, a finite list? Couldn't it be, say, say for an example, it's like 1,000 terms long.
Okay, okay.
Would that still work?
See, the thing is, well, I guess you're not really giving it a description, you're giving it possibilities, right? Because then it could go with
Right.
anything. So that I guess that should prove,
But by limiting it, am I giving it a definition? Like
I mean, I think you yeah, I guess that kinda does make sense because, like, if you think about it, like, our friend's answer, the whole four-legged, fluffy or furry, that's him just
right.
dropping the amount of descriptions or
Down to 2.
definitions.
That's just dropping
Yeah,
the list to 2.
yeah. So, is
So the
1,000 just a larger number or
number, but
version of
it's
that?
still the same thing where it's like, "Oh, well,
Wait,
this could fit it."
wait, but if the list is changing, right? What happen if the characteristics are changing, right?
Right.
That way it's never the same, or because throughout whatever the heck
No,
it
but then
changes.
but then the whole thing with it changing is then that contradicts the idea of innate ideas, so then that doesn't work.
Because then you would be getting the whole latest snapshot thing and then the whole 1,000 years thing. Okay,
Right.
Jesus.
Because
Ugh.
if I look at a dog from 1,000 years ago, it looks more like a wolf than it does today. I might say that's not a dog, that's a wolf.
Mhm.
But that actually begs an interesting question. So when I say that's a wolf instead of calling it a dog, am am I
Are you
just
just
mis
giving it a different word or
am I
giving
giving it a different word or am I just like misperceiving?
oh god. Maybe because there's sense oh, maybe you know the whole I don't think it's a now the whole thing of the cave and the whole fire and thing. Couldn't that just be us in the shadow? No, that doesn't make sense. I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Because
I mean, but we know the list can't be like it can't be finite. Like it can't be a certain set of things because then you're giving it a definition, you're giving it constraints, then that just doesn't work at all. So,
and you can't do infinity because then everything would have an
well,
infinity.
why can't we do infinity? Like why can't dogs be infinitely long and cats be infinitely long?
Well, then you would give a chair the same thing, right? So that would be the form of good, which is the sun in that. So there would be no reason to have forms, right? Because then you would just have one big thing or one
Okay, so
thing.
so what you're sort of saying is if dogs are infinite, it has an infinite list and cats have an infinite list, there's no way to tell the difference between dogs and cats
I
because
mean,
they would also have like infinite overlap.
I I guess, but there has to be something that would be different, right? Because then obviously a dog would be a
Right,
cat, a cat would
because
be a chair, and
then
a
they're
chair could
infinite
be a dog.
lists,
Yeah.
right? And infinitely many similarities means infinitely many differences. Um,
I think
okay.
this
Well,
leads
okay,
to
so
the
what if
legal
we think
conflict.
about what about if we think about the the lists or I'm calling them lists, but collections of characteristics and that sort of thing. What if we described them sort of like in numbers and math? because we can sort of I think we can make a good analogy here. So the dog's form is everything in between 0 and 1, and the cat's form is everything in between 1 and 2. And we know that there are infinitely many numbers in between 0 and 1 and 1 and 2. So now the lists are infinite, but they're also totally different from each other. So now we can differentiate because we know 3 quarters is between 1 and or in between 0 and 1, and we know that
Can't
1 and
be
3 quarters is in between 1 and 2.
okay, okay.
I mean,
Oh, I
is there
guess that
anything
makes sense because you can't have like cats being 0 to 2 because then there could be more possibilities of similarities and differences, which then would okay, never mind, my bad. I'm just thinking out
No,
loud.
so you're just saying that the infinities can't fully overlap because if they did, then they would be the same thing.
Indeed.
Okay.
Okay.
So okay, but does that even work? So say we have a cat, right? And its possibilities are all in between 1 and 2, like every possibility it could have.
Okay.
Couldn't the cat have like black as a possibility, like a black cat,
Mhm.
the
Which would be
creepy
the
cat.
same as a dog, but the dog one is between 0 and 1.
Right, so there's no overlap there, so, like, having them be infinite but totally separate doesn't work, but they also can't just be infinite because then if they're totally infinite, they share an infinite amount of similarities, but then they also can't be finite because if they're finite, then it might not include the dog 1,000 years from now that we don't recognize now as a dog,
And it would
and the
also give it a description, which you can't give a description.
right, and we
Yeah.
can't do that.
Okay.
Okay. Um, so, um, okay.
I
Wait, I got one. So, using the same numbers analogy,
okay.
could we say that the dog's list is between 0.5 and 1.5, and the cat's list is between 1 and 2?
So there's
So
some similarities. Oh,
there is still an infinite amount of similarities in the middle, like everything between 1 and 1.5, those could be your things like color, fur length, um, 4
softness.
legs, 3 legs, 2 legs, tail, no tail, 1 eye, like all the things that could be the same between the 2 of them
But you have that 1.5, which is
to
things
2, which is only for cats, like, only cats can do this thing. Like,
okay.
I don't know if you've ever heard a dog meow or
Oh,
purr,
you have you seen the cat that
but
barks?
I
That
have.
was
I
freaky.
did see that,
That
but
was
I
freaky.
don't think we count that.
That cat forgot what it was. It was like, "Wait, huh? My bad."
So
Speak.
so then those sort of things would be between, in this analogy, 1.5 and 2. So now we have a list where you can still have an infinite amount on each list, but then you also must have differences, and because you have differences, you can determine between the 2. Uh,
No, now I'm confused. Wait, what do you isn't this basically the same thing as the list up top? Because it's point 0.5 to 1.5, right?
right.
And then you have 1.5 to 2. Oh, that
No,
one
no, no,
has
1,
more.
1 to 2.
Oh, 1 to 2. Okay, okay. Thank you.
Because then we have the 1 to 1.5, which are overlapping.
Okay, but then you also have different okay, okay.
Because then we have the differences between 0.5 and 1, which are all only for the dog. And then you have 1.5 to 2, which is only for the cat. But everything in between is could be for both.
Okay, okay.
I mean,
So,
does that work?
I I don't know, I'm trying to imagine it as, like, a list, like,
Right.
as numbers, though, like,
What
as
it's more like a Venn diagram.
oh, well, like, more than half would go to the dog, and less would go to the cat, right?
Well,
Bas
you know what a Venn diagram is, right?
Yeah, I sure
With
hope so. I probably don't. Oh, let me search
the
this up real quick. Venn
the
diagram. I'm second guessing myself. Yeah.
the
Oh no, I was wrong. I was thinking bigger
the
circle.
the two circles with the middle overlapping.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Yes.
So, like, we would have characteristics of dogs, cats, and then dogs only.
Mhm.
And, like, each circle, including the middle, would be all the characteristics for our dog and all the characteristics for our cat. Like, each one would be its own, and they would all be infinitely long.
True. But
So oh, wait. But, okay, here's my question. Does this destroy the logic of we know which one it is by which one it has the most similar with?
I mean,
Because say the list if the lists are infinitely long in all aspects, then won't we always have the same amount of characteristics between dogs and cats, no matter if there is differences or not?
I guess that would make sense because it would be infinite. But I don't.
But also, okay,
I don't
no,
know.
no, wait. That can't be true because if it was true, if that was how it worked, then
Oh,
we
it's a
wouldn't be
pairs
able to
thing.
tell the difference.
Okay, okay. So it was like before, like with the whole chair, because the chair could have the same amount of possibilities, and well, it would be infinite. And then if you put the chair in the Venn diagram, then okay, okay.
Huh?
But you know how you said, well, more like what I said, the whole infinite list, right? Okay, if it was
Okay.
infinite, right?
Yeah,
Then
both lists are only infinite.
how do you tell the difference, right? I think you
Y
asked me
y
that question.
right.
Yeah,
Can you tell a difference?
and then I was like, well, there has to be some characteristic, but we don't know, but then that would be given description or whatever. But then you could add a chair in here, like the whole add a chair, dog, cat, and a chair. If
Right,
all the
okay,
lists
so
were
now we
infinite,
have a
tell the
now
difference.
we okay, right. So now a dog is a cat, and a cat is a chair, and a chair is a dog.
Indeed, because you
Okay,
could
but
put
now
literally anything in it.
now
Or
let's add the chair to the Venn diagram.
okay.
So now we have a three-way. Um,
Oh god.
does does the logic of the Venn diagram as each circle being infinite, does that still work? So if we have a triple Venn diagram, in the very middle, we would have things like colors and stuff.
Okay.
And then the overlap between dogs and cats would be like fur and that sort of thing. Then the overlap between like dog and chair would
Legs.
be legs. That's a good
Yo.
one. And
Legs.
then the same for
Three-legged
the
chairs.
for for cat and chair. So now we
Yeah.
have an infinite amount of similarities between the 3, but we also have an infinite amount of differences between the 3. And because there's an infinite amount of differences, that means that we must be able to distinguish the 2.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And
Because that
right,
just makes everything the same, which it can't be. That wouldn't make any sense.
right, because we can tell the difference. So we know there's
Yeah.
differences and we can
Okay.
identify those differences.
Okay, okay. Even though we might not be able to put words to them, there has to be.
Exactly. Because that's the idea of innate that's the whole thing about the innate ideas. We know this.
Okay,
So,
so
I'm
I'm
not trying to
literally writing
describe
down.
how we know it, I'm trying to describe what it is we know.
Okay, okay. So I'm currently writing down. We know there's things. We know there's differences. There we go. My bad.
Right.
Hmm.
Now okay, now here's the hardest part because this decides whether or not everything that we've just talked about
Breaks apart
is
or falls apart.
falls apart, 1, or if it's entirely unnecessary and we did all this for nothing.
Oh god. By the way,
Does
we went through this like 3 times, like where we would start and then just end in failure and then continue again. It was painful.
does anything actually solve, like, does this still actually solve the third man thing?
I mean,
So we have a list of all the characteristics of dog and all the characteristics or just all the characteristics of dog. We have 2 dogs.
Okay.
They share we know that they're both dogs because of how they relate to the list, right? We know there are similarities between the 2,
Yes.
which creates the list. And then the list is all of the possibilities. And I'm
Okay.
using also list as in form. So the 2 similarities create the form. The form is a list, and the list consists of all the possibilities, which means that it consists of all aspects of the 2 of them.
So it does pass the whole third man argument thing. At
So
least it starts.
now there's no reason for us to need another person or thing or list to describe the similarities between the first dog and the list of dog because we've already described all the similarities within the list.
You're breaking my brain, but I'm just gonna continue on following. I get the general idea though.
I mean,
Continue.
does that so we're gonna say that holds?
I mean, it should because you're saying it goes to. It's not like the whole
Well,
dog
like through
dog
I'm saying
third dog.
through our logic, it's valid. Like it
Yeah,
holds.
yeah. It's what makes sense, or at least it makes it. I don't think it might be true, but I think it is valid
I mean,
because
it's
you
like it's a
an
valid
argument.
argument. We've
Yeah,
created a valid argument.
yeah, that makes
Well,
sense.
that is what we set out to accomplish, isn't it?
Oh, would you have done that? Oh God.
So, uh, thank you for staying along with us if you're still
Indeed.
here. That was a that was a rough one.
Yeah, my brain
Um,
hurts. I got another fold, by the way. I got a second one now.
oh, you got your next one?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're
We
growing
actually
up
like.
so fast, man.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Pretty soon you're gonna be able to drive.
No, I can drive. I think.
Oh,
Oh
that's
no.
not good. You
Oh
shouldn't be on
God.
the road with only 2 folds.
Oh God. I need at
How'd
least
they
like
let you through
45.
the system?
I don't know, man. I just kind of took my picture and got out. I don't know.
Oh, they didn't even, like, give you a test or anything?
No, 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 no. I just kind of walked in there. I
And
just
you're
looked
like,
old. I don't know.
"Oh,
Yeah.
okay."
I went to Party City beforehand and like bought an outfit. I don't know, man.
Oh, so you bought, like, a tuxedo from Party City and,
Yeah,
like, a little
yeah.
hat?
And a
So it's
hat.
like
It's top hat.
and that
Top hat and a cane. Oh man.
okay, so
I
you
look
were
like the Monopoly man.
okay, so
Oh,
you walked into the Secretary of State dressed as the Monopoly Man
yeah.
and said, "Hey, I need a picture for my driver's license." Got the picture. They printed you a license,
Yes. They believed me 100%
and
though.
and then you just left?
Yeah, that's how that happened. 100%.
Wild.
True story, true story.
It's like, who can I call to confirm this?
Drew.
Was he with
Real
you?
no. I mean, maybe. I don't
In
know, man.
spirit, in spirit.
In spirit, there we go.
Okay,
Drew
so
will
okay.
back me up no matter what.
I'll hold on. You know what? Where's my phone?
Text Drew.
No, I'm gonna call Drew.
Oh, oh no.
Um,
Swear to God, if he answers.
contacts Drew Man. That's his name in my phone.
It's amazing.
Call.
It's gonna be interesting.
You can't hear it. It's ringing. My noise suppression has taken it out. It's still ringing. He hasn't. Drew. Hi. Okay. So Corollas was telling me about how he went to Party City and got the stuff and dressed up as the Monopoly Man, then went to the Secretary of State and got his picture taken for his license, but he never actually took the driver's test. So now he's driving around town with only 2 folds in his brain. And I'm trying to figure out how that was possible, and he told me to call you.
Well, it's very simple. You see, the Constitution of the state of Michigan actually lets you get your driver's license for free, actually. You don't have to
Oh,
test if you dress up as the Monopoly.
Oh,
oh,
look at that. I did not know
Yeah,
that. Just a pure coincidence.
um,
So,
What, 1942? It
well,
was an emergency wartime act that was
Jesus.
never repealed.
oh, I gotcha. So, like, when business was booming with the Monopoly Man, they were like, "Hey, anyone dressed as the Monopoly Man, yeah, we can let them drive."
Yeah, absolutely. Because that portrays a certain prestige to be Mr. Money, Mr. Pennybags. It portrays a certain mystique about him, you know?
Okay, so I love that, right? But what was really concerning to me is Carolus just told me that he actually had no idea about that law when he went in. So, um,
Yeah,
Well,
it was
see, when you think
coincidence.
about it, the law of averages suggests at some point a man has to walk into the DMV and get his picture taken and get his license as the monopoly.
this is true.
Eventually,
This is true.
somebody has to. It's just there's too many people for someone not to do that.
Right.
So therefore, Carolus was that man.
Yes,
There goes
I've
that
done
boy.
it.
Yeah,
Indeed,
yeah,
indeed.
yeah. Of course.
Man. Well, thank you for clearing that up. I was very confused.
Oh, no problem, no problem. Anytime.
Okay. Well,
See, a lot of people see the problem with America these days is people are so very despairing because they don't know about the many tools that the founding fathers gave us to use to their advantage, like the monopoly,
like the Monopoly Man. Exactly.
like the monopoly rule. George Washington. People don't know he was alive until 1959. He never died. They just lied to you.
He never
Okay.
died.
Thank you for that. We're gonna end it there.
All right,
Um,
sounds good.
so I'll call you later to clear a few things up about George Washington. But
Of
Okay,
course,
okay.
anytime.
okay. Bye.
Bye. See you. Have a
Yeah,
good one.
yeah, you too.
Well, that was
What
interesting.
a man.
Indeed, indeed. I told
What
you,
a man.
that was 100% true
You
story.
you did
Yep.
tell me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and if
Yeah.
any of you guys like actually think that we scripted that,
That was kind of funny.
that was
I can't believe
all
he answered, man.
me either. He, I love Drew for that reason. You can call him,
He'll come in
say
clutch,
that,
man.
and then he says that back.
Just walks away as if nothing happens. Oh,
Okay.
Lord.
Well,
He came up with
I don't
that,
I
too.
don't I think I'm probably gonna cut the very end of this from here because we don't need the explanation. We just need to end on the hang up. Okay. So
Okay, okay, that's perfect.
hold
Oh
on.
my god.
I think it's slash pause slash leave. Okay, channel the closet. There we go.